Warning, do not get your car detailed till you watch Lisa interviewing master detailer Johnny. Johnny goes over all aspects of detailing and paint renewal. Lisa is one of the fast-rising influencers in the social media world. Watch for Lisa on cable and social media. She is part of the new OTL universe.
Hi, I'm Lisa D from Lisa D TV. I just finished having my car detailed at Car Tech Details in Basking Ridge. So we're going to take a look at some great cars today. We're going to talk to the manager, Johnny, and he's going to tell us their whole process on how he gets these cars looking so great. So today we're at Car Tech Details in Basking Ridge on East Henry Street.
You got it.
And we have Johnny, the owner, here.
Nice to meet you. I'm the manager.
Oh, you're the manager. Okay, that's the next best thing.
There you go.
That's the owner. So, Johnny, tell us a little bit about what you do here and what your process is.
Sure. So we're paint specialists. We really deal with a lot of clear coat, all different makes, models. What we do is called paint corrections. We do ceramic coatings, virtually anything aesthetics for vehicles. And then this one in specific, we're doing a paint correction and ceramic coating. It's a good friend of mine's car. He painted it about 15 or so years ago and hasn't really done much with it since. So again, we started compounding, polishing to get this car to at minimum 80%, given how much clear coat it has left. And he's just going to put a lot of hard miles on it.
Okay. So then how do you determine what a car needs? I know we were talking a little bit before about swirl marks versus scratches. So tell me how you determine what to do.
Sure. So, I mean, for starters, as long as the vehicle's a metal-bodied car, what you can do is you can take a device to measure how much clear coat or paint is physically on the car. So what that's going to do is you apply it right to the surface of the car, and it's going to tell me the distance between my device and the metal itself. Once you have a good idea of how much paint is on the car, you can decide how good you can make the car look. So it also takes into factor of how many years do you plan on keeping a car and how often do you drive it. Because a vehicle that's driven quite often that you want to keep for, let's say, 10, 15 years, it may not be the best idea to take it to that 95% level because you're going to be removing so much material. So you got to keep that in mind. There's a bunch of different, ideologies and facets. That's just the way I interpret it and the way I like to go about it. But again, you can go mild to wild if you really wanted to, but longevity is also important to me.
Okay, so what if you have a classic car, right? And
Sure.
It's got some, swirl marks, and some little chips, and you want to take it back to how it looked almost coming out of the showroom. Like, is that even possible?
Well, yes. So it is definitely possible. A lot of the times with these classic cars, let's just say 30s to 40s, majority of the time that old school paint is pretty tough to deal with.
Okay.
Majority of the cars that you see at car shows have modern day clear coat on them just because it's such a pain to deal with, like enamel based old school paint. So a lot of the times if you did want to do that, it's really limited with how much you could do with that current paint. But my recommendation majority of the time for cars, as long as it's not a pristine example, is to go with a modern day respray. But yes, there is certain tricks and tips that you can do to make those cars shine up for sure.
Okay, so now once the paint is in good shape,
Yep.
I know before you were talking about wrapping the car with something, so how does that work?
Sure. So what that's called is paint protection film. Paint protection film's main purpose is to protect from impacts and rocks so your vehicle doesn't get rock chipped. I typically recommend, as soon as you get a vehicle, to get it wrapped in film. So that way there's no imperfections, the film can go on perfectly, and that way there's not going to be any sort of bubbles or anything going on. The beauty of paint protection film is not every film is created the same. So we use XPEL's paint protection film, and the beauty of that is it has a self-healing top coat. Meaning if you have like a light brush or an aluminum brush and you rub against the car and you're like, oh my gosh, my car's all scratched up, what am I gonna do? You could leave it out in the sun for about 5 hours. The sun is gonna remove all those imperfections that are on the surface, along with hot water as well. You can just take really hot water, pour it on the surface, and those scratches are gone, which is really great for those super black cars with not many pigments, because metallic really helps hide a lot of the imperfections like scratches and swirl marks. When you don't have any metallics and you just have a base color, you're going to notice all the swirls and scratches. So if you have paint protection film, it's all going to self-heal and your car is going to look great all the time. But I will say it definitely comes at a price tag. So, you know, paint protection film is definitely on the higher end of the aesthetics that you can do for your vehicle, but in my opinion is well worth the investment if you really love your car.
I mean, that sounds amazing. Almost too good to be true, though.
It almost is.
And then once that's on, can you see it?
So again, there's a lot of different packages and different ways you can put it on the car. My personal preference is to do the entire fender or entire portion of the car. So for example, on this car over here, if I were to do this car, I would prefer to do the entire fender of the vehicle. Some people opt to do a partial, but what happens is over time, dirt and contaminants start and hit that line, making it very noticeable. So that way when you look at the car, you're gonna see that dirt. If I do the entire fender, there's a much less chance of it being affected and it showing on the car.
Okay. And then can it go through the car wash when it has that on?
You can. I don't really recommend it just because, again, you got to take into consideration majority of industrial car washes or standard car washes run off of a brush system. So you can have, you know, a guy who has a super muddy truck with rocks go through, and that machine, those brushes are going to touch those rocks and mud, and as soon as your beautiful, clean, shiny car comes in, it's going to make some damage on the car. Sure, it's going to heal, but my ideology, at least with cars in general, is you want to reduce the amount of impacts and the amount of scratches and swirls. Even though it is self-healing, there is a certain amount of limited, you know, it can only self-heal a certain amount of times. Obviously, if you're going through a drive-through every single day, you know, over the course of 5 years or so, it's not going to have the same properties as it once did.
Okay, and let's just say I want to have a regular, or I guess I'm calling it a regular detailing.
Sure.
So, meaning like, you know, the car washed and thoroughly cleaned on the inside, maybe wax.
Yeah.
How long in advance would somebody need to make an appointment, and then how long would they need to leave the vehicle here?
Sure, that was a great question. So on average for a full inside and out detail, my entry-level detail, it takes typically about 1 day. That's typically what I like to leave it at. As of right now, in the spring and summertime, we're typically about 3 weeks in advance, and we do appointments only during the spring and summertime. So from start, like for a standard detail, what we like to do is start off with a thorough exterior wash. So, you know, depending on, you know, how the condition of the car is, we'll start with a pressure wash. We typically pressure wash the entire vehicle for about 10 minutes, getting off as much debris as possible. After that, I like to use a bug and tar or, you know, some sort of bug remover on the lower thirds of the car where typically all that garbage and smutch builds up.
Right.
After that, I like to foam the entire vehicle, and I let the foam sit on the car for about 2 minutes. That's called emulsification. It's basically letting the chemical do majority of the hard and heavy lifting. It's going to loosen up that dirt, loosen up that brake dust, whatever it may be. And then after I let it sit for about 2 minutes, we're going to pressure wash the entire car one more time. Now that I've gotten as much of the contaminants off, I can go ahead and do my contact wash. So I foam the vehicle up a second time, and then I can physically touch the car with a mitt. What that's going to do is, again, I'm minimizing how much swirls I'm creating by transferring dirt from one panel to the next. After doing that, I like to do the clay bar stage during the wash stage. A lot of times people will tell you that, you know, the soap and bug and tar remover is going to deteriorate your clay bar. We run through so much clay that it really doesn't matter for me. So during the soap process, we also like to clay bar. We like to work in teams of 2 on average. So, you know, one guy is using the mitt, the guy following him is doing a clay bar. We do a light clay, never really aggressive on a standard car because we're not gonna polish it. So this is a super light clay that we do just to get rid of that grit. So when your hand touches the paint, it feels smooth as can be.
Oh, okay.
Following that, what we like to do is a wet applied paint sealant. So this is great for a car that already looks kind of good. You just want to protect it and make it look nice and clean. That synthetic spray can be used while the car is wet. So technically you don't even need to dry the car. You're drying it while you're waxing it, which saves a lot of time and is super efficient. So after we do our synthetic spray sealant on the outside, we move on to the interior typically. And for a standard detail, what we like to do is we blow out all cracks and crevices on the interior. We scrub down all the seats, the carpets, the dashboard, the steering wheel. Steering wheel is typically the hot ticket item because that's like immediately you notice it. You've been sitting in your car every day for years. You don't really realize that the glossy steering wheel is not supposed to be glossy. It's supposed to be a matte finish. So, majority of the time, that's the biggest wow factor for people on interiors is getting the steering wheel super clean. It feels great in your hands. But besides that, yeah, we finish up the interior, do nice glass cleaning, and the last thing it gets is some tire shine before she's on her way.
Well, I had no idea all these steps and everything that was involved. All I know is I drop off my car, I come back a day later, it looks great.
Yeah.
But wow, that's really an in-depth process.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways you can go about it too. So for example, majority of swirl marks come from two parts of the process. Is the initial washing, because you're taking contaminants from here and dragging it across the surface, which again is why I like to do that emulsification process and the pressure washing process. The second thing is during the drying process. So number one, towels. Towels are a real big part of the problem. Majority of people think, any kind of microfiber is fine, but not all microfibers were created equal.
Okay.
Another factor to take into consideration is clear coat. Not all clear coat is the same. Some clear coat is going to be a lot softer, meaning it can scratch easier than other clear coats. So, there's multiple facets to that. My approach when it comes to drying the vehicle is I prefer not even to touch the car. What I use is called a Metrovac. A Metrovac is a heated air blower that can concentrate and blow all the water off the car. Yes, it is a lot more labor intensive to blow the whole car off, but once you ceramic coat it, you can dry it in like 5 minutes. So I can go through, hit all the cracks and crevices, blow all the water out of the car so that when you pick up your car, there's not a drop of water all over it. And it also prevents you from scratching the car because water is a terrible lubricant. So unless you're spraying your towel with let's say a detailer spray or something to protect from that contact from touching from panel to panel, it's typically where you're going to get some swirls and scratches. By using a touchless dry process, it eliminates any possibility of you transferring dirt from one panel to the next.
See, I always thought that I was doing a good thing all the times that I was out there hand washing my car by myself, but I'm probably putting swirl marks in it.
100%.
So from now on, that's it. No more car washing for me. I'm just going to drop it off to you.
You know what though? The biggest thing is educating people because a lot of times, there's so much flash words and buzzwords like ceramic nowadays. It's used all over the place. So the biggest thing is educating ourselves on how the wash process works. And a lot of times when people come in, for example, and they want to get, a hand wash done, when I tell them a certain price point, a lot of people are shocked, like, oh my gosh, why is that so? I can get a car wash for $10 at, Joe Schmo's plate,
right.
Whatever it is. It's because of the processes involved into keeping the paint as good as you can. Sure, you can get a wash and have it be quick, but it's going to affect the car a lot worse than a proper wash technique, And again, it's one of those things that it takes time to figure out what you like to do, how you like to perform. There's no right or wrong way to do any of this. I'll put it that way. As a detailer, I've come up with a specific list and specific way I like to approach it. And by following my system and having all of our guys follow that system, it's a very predictable pattern. So if there's any issues, it's very easy to spot those issues and why they happen. So, and there's accountability in that. That way each guy knows exactly what they need to do, how they should approach the problem. And, communication is also a big thing. As long as you're communicating with your client, communicating with your guys, that's the biggest thing.
All right, well, thank you so much for sharing all that information. So Johnny, it's been great showing us this car, so interesting. Do you have any others that you're working on that you could show us?
I definitely do. So everything that we previously talked about regarding the ceramic coating and the paint protection film, we actually just finished up with a job that I'd love to show you.
Oh great, let's go.
Alrighty.
So we are back at Car Tech Detailing. We have Johnny here with us again.
Hey, how's it going?
With another car. So let's check this out. Tell us what you did.
Awesome. So for this Mustang here, it's a good friend of mine's car. We ended up wanting to protect the front end of the car. He's going to be taking this to a couple track days here and there. And he just didn't want to have any rock chips or deal with any issues. So we wrapped the entire front end in paint protection film. This was about a year ago that we did that. We also put a 1-year ceramic coating on at that time because he didn't know if he was going to keep the car or if he was going to give it back. He ended up falling in love, as many do, and wanted to keep the car for a couple more years. So when he came back this time, we decided to wrap the entire rear quarter in paint protection film to prevent it from any rock chips or any kind of bug bumps, scrapes, anything like that. And this time he opted for our 4-year ceramic coating. So, you know, it's a lot more durable, a lot stronger. It's going to keep the car looking better for a longer period of time. And then other than that, we did a couple odds and ends, little touch up. PPF gets trimmed every once in a while in case any areas lift up or anything starts to bubble up. We just fix it during that time frame. And other than that, he's ready to see his car again today.
All right, well that's exciting. I mean, it looks great. It's such a pretty color.
Yeah, the color is definitely one of my favorites on this car. It's also a Mach 1, which is a pretty cool piece. It has the Recaro bucket seats in there. And other than that, it's a pretty cool car. I can't complain there.
Yeah, well I think you did an awesome job because I was asking you before, once the film goes on, if it kind of like dulls the finish or anything, but I mean you could clearly see, I mean this looks like a mirror. And then you showed me before how smooth it feels.
Yeah, that's the ceramic coating on top. And it's a good thing that you brought up longevity actually. So paint protection film, at least XPEL's paint protection film, has a warranty of 10 years. So that 10-year warranty is against yellowing, fading. My personal recommendation, if you have a car that's being driven, you know, a couple times in a week, or even a car that's sitting, the most I would ever keep a film on is for 8 years. Because sure, the yellowing won't happen for 10 years, but when you go to remove that film, that's when it might end up biting you. So a lot of the times, paint protection film has a really hard bond. So for example, if you have a plastic front bumper, it's more likely that when you remove the film, the clear coat is going to come with it. So when you're painting a car, paint bonds better to metal than it does to plastic. So if you put paint protection film over a metal surface, it's really not going to have any issues with, you know, pulling paint. But when you put it on a plastic surface, that adhesion is so strong that when you're going to remove it, there's a chance that you can pull some clear coat. So it's always good to know in regards to applying paint protection film and seeing if it's right for you.
Okay, so that's another great point. Of course, another thing that I didn't know. So it has been so fun here today, and I've learned so much.
I was so happy you could come and you got to learn a thing or two about what we do over here.
Yeah, it's been really great. And I was wondering, like, can I take a few, like, on a test drive? Do you think the owners would mind?
No problem. We'll give you one as a loaner.
Oh, perfect. It's a win-win. Well, thanks again.
Yeah, it was really great.
I had a great day today talking to Johnny at CarTech Details. There's so many things about detailing that I didn't know before. So I was really, really excited to learn all this. So I am going to hit the road though now. Hope you enjoyed the show. Wow, I just finished checking out this car. Looks awesome. I'm gonna take this one home with me. Well, it's been a great day today at CarTech Details, and I learned so much, so many things that I didn't know about car detailing. So I am gonna hit the road though now. Hope you enjoyed the show. We have a problem. My leg's not long enough to push the clutch all the way in.
Oh. Here, I can move the chair up for you. There you are.
Well, you're not going to be able to fit then.
No, that's all right.
Is it a automatic? Okay, it's a lever.
Yep.
There we go.
That was perfect, except for you screwing up at the end.
There we go. Okay, now I can reach. Oh my God, you gotta put like a block of wood under there for me.
Right?
Hi, I'm Lisa D from Lisa D TV. Today we're at Car Tech Details in Basking Ridge, and we're going to take a look at some great cars. That's it?